Hello Vault Heads, this is the self-proclaimed, sarcastically named Captain KeyForge, also known as PJ Broughton of the Steel City Snufflegators. Welcome to the latest episode of Captain's Commpod. We continue the series of Is KeyForge Winds of Exchange any good at? And today we're going to find out if it's any good at stealing. So we are going to go through the number of cards that steal in this set, the breakdown by house, the breakdown by card rarity, how that rates in relation to the other sets in the game, and then I'm going to give you my opinion on whether I think this is good at stealing or not, this set. So there are 11 cards in KeyForge Winds of Exchange with the word steal on them. Okay, so that's 11 total cards. They work a little bit differently here and there, and some will steal one, some will steal two, etc., etc. But yes, 11 cards in total. Which doesn't jump out at me as a big number to begin with. So there is one card that is a reprint. So one card is coming back from other sets out of those 11, which obviously means then that 10 of those 11 cards are brand new cards to Winds of Exchange. So yeah, 11 in total, 10 new cards. And that's what we've got there. So the amount of cards in KeyForge Winds of Exchange is 403. That does include token creatures, which you can only get one of, obviously. But yeah, there are 403 cards in the set. Okay, so 11 cards out of 403 cards works out at 2.73%. Okay, so 2 out of every 100, 1 out of every 50. That statistically means that your average cards that steal to expect in a deck is probably around about 0. You'll be lucky to get one. Okay, so of these cards, 6 of these cards steal on play. Okay, and 8 of these cards steal 2 or more when you use them, which is quite good. Okay, so now we'll go on to the breakdown by house. Now, Brobnar and Saurian and Sanctum all have 0 cards that steal. I mean, that's not a surprise. None of those have been particularly good at stealing. I mean, I can think of some Saurian ones that did steal. I can't really think of a Brobnar one off the top of my head that steals. I can certainly think of some that lose. Same with Sanctum. Can't really think of any that steal, lose. Yes, obviously. Then Unfathomable and Mars and Star Alliance all have 1 card in each house that steals. I mean, again, we all know Shadows was the house that was great at stealing, so Shadows always used to have a lot. So far we've found 3 of our 11 cards in this set, and 1 in Unfathomable, 1 in Star Alliance, 1 in Mars. And then Equidon have 8. So if you're looking for steal from this set, you need to be looking at House Equidon, because that's where most of it's going to come from. So I'm already going to go and say, if you haven't got Equidon in your deck, I don't think you're going to be doing much stealing. So let's hope there are other methods of amber control in the set, because yeah, that's not helpful to all the other houses. Now I'm going to go on the rarity. Okay, so one of the steal cards is a token creature. So obviously, if you don't get it, you don't get it. You're stuffed. You're never going to get it. If you do get it, you're lucky though, because when there's only 11 cards in the set, you've got the token creature that steals. That's quite good. And also, in third place, joint with 1 is rare. There is 1 rare card that steals. So yeah, 1 token card steals, 1 rare card steals, and that puts them in joint third, because there are only 2 types that are more common than these 2. Okay, and in second place are 4 uncommon cards. So yeah, 1 rare, 1 token, but 4 uncommon cards. I mean, that's better than rares or tokens. You should see uncommon cards reasonably often. You're not going to see them all the time, but you are going to see them reasonably often. So maybe worth taking a look at the card galleries to take a look at those. But then in first place, the other 5, they're all common. So yeah, there might only be 11 in total. One of them might be a token, but at least there are 5 common steel cards in the set. So hopefully you'll get one of those, because despite the fact that the odds are possibly stacked against you by number of cards, at least some of them are common. So hopefully you'll see them there. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a look at those 5 common steel cards. So the first one is in House Unfathomable. It is a creature with 1 power, no armor, and the trait Beast. It's called Skullback Crab. It comes with poison, which means if you deal any damage using it fighting, it destroys the creature, and it has an action ability, Steal 1. So pretty much unless something fights into this with armor, it's going to die fighting into it. And because it's action and there's nothing about destroyed, you might be able to get multiple uses out of it. It's not a bad card, but I mean, there's a few creatures that have the ability to get rid of this without even fighting. So I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it's great. That brings me on to the next one, which is a Star Alliance card, and it is called Rogue Operation. And it says, play, discard the top 2 cards of your deck, steal 1 for each house represented among the discarded cards. Okay, so you've got to have 2 cards to discard on the top of your deck, otherwise this won't trigger. It's always going to get you 1 unless they have an ability that stops you from stealing, like say a Cephalist or a Vault Keeper. But you might get 2. I don't dislike it. The only thing I don't like, I wish it was a reveal rather than discard, because you might discard a card you really need. But yeah, not a bad card. Steals on play. Could be worse. The next one then takes us to an Equidon card, which is Generous Offer. Okay, play, destroy a friendly creature. If you do, steal 2. I like that one. Yes, you've got to have a friendly creature in play to trigger it, because if you haven't got a friendly creature, you don't get to the if part of it. But I would sacrifice most of the creatures in this game to steal 2 from an opponent. I really would. I don't think that is a bad card. Also, as well, play it, do it. Unless they've got some way of stopping you playing action cards, and 1 or 2 cards that do that, or a control the weak, something like that. Most of the time, you're going to be able to get that off, and you are going to be able to get the 2 out of them as long as they've got them. Okay, and that brings me on to another Equidon card. This one's a creature. It's power 6, no armor, trait Gutrukia and Merchant, and it is Gemcoat Vendor. Action, steal 1, deal 1 damage to Gemcoat Vendor. But with 6, yeah. You could, in theory, get 6 uses out of it. I don't think you're going to get 6 uses out of it, because I think most players are going to kill it before you actually steal with it 6 times. You might not get any use out of it, to be fair, but it's a bit beefy at power 6, so I would hope that you get maybe 1 or 2 uses out of that before your opponent destroys it. I prefer Generous Offer, but again, I wouldn't be disappointed to see that, because it's all right. And then finally, we're looking at another Equidon card. This one actually has an Amber Pip on it. Closed door negotiations. Play, your opponent draws a card. Steal 1. If you do, and your opponent still has more than you, trigger this effect again. And because of the way it's worded, we seem to think it works like old bait and switch. Your opponent draws a card, full stop. Steal 1, full stop. If you do, blah, 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 meaning you would do both. I'm pretty much always going to be happy to steal that one. That's not a bad card at all. I mean, you are giving your opponent cards, so not ideal giving them the cards, but I certainly think it's a good card. I wouldn't be disappointed to see it, and it'd be a welcome addition to any deck. So that brings us on to the amount of cards that steal per set. So Winds of Exchange is bottom. There are 11 cards in Winds of Exchange that steal. That places it in 6th place. Although again, without shadows in the set, maybe that's not a surprise that there aren't as many steel cards in Winds of Exchange as there are in any other set. So yeah, 11. At 5, then we have Age of Ascension. So Age of Ascension has 17 cards in it which steal. So quite a bit more, so like 50% more than Winds of Exchange. It's not a huge number, but it's a significant increase on Winds of Exchange. So yeah, Age of Ascension at 5 with 17. Then in 4th place we have Worlds Collide. So Worlds Collide has 23 different cards which steal amber in different ways. Now that's more than double. So now we're starting to see the big boys come out. It's still a significant amount more than Age of Ascension as well. 1.7, it's more than 10% more than Age of Ascension, but it's more than double Winds of Exchange. So Worlds Collide comes in 4th with 23 cards. Then in 3rd place, you have Call of the Archons. Call of the Archons had 25 different steel cards in it. See why loads of people still to this day like to play Call of the Archons cards. Popular set, very good at rush, punish rush as well sometimes if you've got a good shadow suite with 25 different steel cards in it, but not top of the shop. In 2nd place, Dark Tidings. Dark Tidings has 30 different cards that steal in it. Wasn't necessarily expecting to see Dark Tidings so high up. But yeah, I mean, 3 times as many as Winds of Exchange, almost. One card off 3 times as many, and still not at the top. But yeah, Dark Tidings comes in 2nd place, and Dark Tidings has 30 cards that can steal, which leaves us in top place, Mass Mutation, with 38 cards that steal. Not far off 4 times as many as Winds of Exchange. Mass Mutation is the best of the best when it comes to stealing. Maybe that's why it's got to the stage where it's so hard to get hold of, because it is pretty hard to get hold of Mass Mutation now for an awful lot of players in an awful lot of places. But yeah, Winds of Exchange bottom, Mass Mutation top. So is Winds of Exchange any good at stealing then? What do we think based on that? Do we think yes? Do we think no? Well, my answer is no. When Mass Mutation's got almost 4 times as many cards, when every single other set has more, it's a no. If it was close, if Mass Mutation had 40 and Call of the Archons had 22 and Age of Ascension had 21 and Winds of Exchange had 20, I'd be like, well, Mass Mutation's an outlier and it's really, really good, and everything else is pretty similar. So none of them are bad. They're all much of a muchness. This is a distinct outright. At stealing, it's a no. Now, I haven't done is it any good at amber control? I haven't looked at how good it is at making your opponent lose amber, how many key tax cards there are, things like that. So hopefully it can be good at those, because surely there are some ways in this set to stop your opponent forging a key when they've got to check. I imagine there are, but there aren't that many ways to do it with stealing, although at least there is one mass amber control steal card. So what do you think? Do you agree with my statement that it's not good at stealing? Do you disagree? Were you expecting that anyway? Because shadows aren't in here and you like. Statement from the Ministry of the Obvious, Captain KeyForge. You can get in touch on Twitter, Facebook, email, all the usual suspects. I'm in quite a few different Discords as well, so you might be able to find me in those. Thank you for staying with me to the end of another Captain's Commpod. This series will continue, but as ever, may the Forge be with you.